Alright, 5 people, whatever, we'll just start. So we want to get into like a few different issues with Starscape, but one of the things that we're interested in is the issues that you have with Starscape. Like, what do you think the biggest issues are with Starscape at the moment?
Well, I mean, being, Lycentian Grand Admiral and whatnot, the biggest thing that jumps out at me is faction warfare. It is in a terrible, terrible state. It was really highlighted how in early 2024, Lycentia captured all the borders and everything, held all of the systems, and we just immediately quit because there's no reward, there's no reason to keep them, no reason to even try capturing them back once they were taken because, no drive to do anything because, again, no reward, nothing.
How would you fix it? Like, if it was up to you to fix that type of faction warfare problem, how would you go about doing it?
That's a good question. I would say something like, you could give it more of a curve. Like, systems in the very middle of each front could be easier to take, whereas the ones next to staging areas could be much more difficult. That sort of thing is sort of achieved with the stronghold system and whatnot, but it's just not really fleshed out enough.
Yeah, like maybe if the defenses were, actually fun to attack and not just fucking power cells, and they were actually difficult to attack as well. You can't solo cap them. I think that's like a big issue, the solo capping.
Yeah, like you just sit 4K out or 3K out with some blasters and a regen thing, and you
it's a bit of a joke.
Quite a joke. Then NBCs need to send fleets after you. You know how fleets patrol systems and stuff.
Yeah,
they don't do anything.
They don't really. Yeah, that's right, man. And it's so the mechanics are just bad. Like, sit in a ring to spawn in NPCs. Like, what the hell? Who the hell wants to do that, man? No one even does it, bro. It's like useless.
It's like the NPCs really need to just they need to care where the enemy players are. They need to have a good way of defining what an enemy player is. Usually, like for Alkin, if it's in less sentient space, and they need to actually have a drive to go towards the player instead of around points of interest. Because at points of interest, they can just get sniped.
The NPCs need to be more dangerous too. Like, you just take out a whole fleet on your own, man. It's a bit of a when it comes to drones or something, okay, it kind of makes more sense. I mean, I have my own opinions on that. I do think that things should be more difficult to encourage people to join factions so that they actually do stuff like a drone battleship. You shouldn't be able to solo drone battleship. But when it comes to faction warfare, which is literally supposed to be big groups of people fighting, why are you making it so it's possible to solo shit? You know what I mean? Like, stuff should be hard.
Unless the RNG gives you a pretty difficult one, like with a dozen cruisers, you can solo it, but if it's a dozen cruisers, you die instantly. There's not really a middle ground.
Yeah, faction warfare to me is just kind of... It feels like it was designed for players to own territory and stuff, but he just kind of got lazy and just gave it to NPCs and just made it so it's like an NPC.
It just doesn't work with NPCs.
It just doesn't work. It's boring. Just no one cares,
I mean, I think we can yap a lot about contested because, I mean, I don't know about you, Strategic, but we did come with an analogy that contested is just what players didn't have in wild systems. Because imagine, player factions, instead of contested, player factions had the hangars, PlayStations had the mining platforms, and it was in wild instead.
I mean, having that on top of what we already have, on top of a rebalanced faction warfare would be pretty cool. Like, it would be really cool to have all this stuff for players, but yeah, it's just, there's enough reward for the defender who builds the stuff or the defender who benefits from the defenses with this stuff. It needs a rebalance, and I think someone might have been Keth said something about making seasons or something.
Seasons? Oh my god.
Seasons?
We're gonna get the seasonal rewards, bro. Yeah, buy the battle pass, the faction warfare battle pass. Jesus.
Guys, if you get level 50 on the battle pass, you get a free justice.
Nah, you get a free skin for your justice. You get a fucking gay skin.
No, I mean, what I was referring to is you have a 1 month period. At the end of the period, whoever owns the most or captured the most or whatever gets rewards and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Time.
Yeah, make it so it's done in sort of. Let's do you have a timer, and then whoever owns the most territory at the end or whatever gets a bunch of rewards or some shit. That's definitely a good idea. That would bring more incentives. The only thing is splitting those rewards out would be kind of odd to do. See, the interesting thing to me is if you were to try and add sort of player faction based stuff into the game now, it would conflict with the faction warfare. What would we don't have the player base to do both of those things. One would die. I think it would be faction warfare because it would be more boring in comparison. But then again, I don't know, man. It's just an interesting thing to think about. How the hell would it work? Would it cancel each other out?
even in the past few years and stuff with faction warfare, player factions and NPC factions actually have been at odds quite a lot in my experience. Like, as you might know, I, a Lycentian faction, am allied with SJC, a Kavani faction. We do go to war with the Kavani sometimes. So people get really confused, like, do we shoot our allies because there are enemies here? You might reasonably say no because they're our allies. But then what happens when you're in a fleet and you're attacking them and you have the chance to go after them and secure the kill and stuff? It's really controversial, and there really isn't a right answer.
Yeah, like, do you think faction warfare kind of killed off player factions a bit? Because like, when it came out, everyone was sort of forced to ally up because you either had to be like a 4 Alkin, a Lacentian, or a Cavani dude, and it really like limited the politics.
Yeah, so instead of having like 2 Giga alliances, you instead have 3 NPC
groups.
Factions around.
Not even like, I wouldn't even call them alliances. Like, they're just big groups of players. I mean, they're kind of ordered. You know, they plan stuff.
No, I was referring to like Retribution and stuff.
No, yeah, I know. I'm just saying like the new stuff that came after. Yeah, Retribution, Mega Alliances. I like that system better, but I don't know. Stuff's weird now.
Yeah, anyway. I mean, players need to be given control of a lot of stuff. Otherwise, it gets it can get really dated, boring, or dated quickly.
Why did you get involved in the like unofficial Starscape community?
I mean, it was created right as the original one was shutting down, so it was obviously, I don't know why, but it quickly swelled to become the biggest, most obvious heir, so to speak, of the main server.
Were you involved in it from the beginning?
Yeah, like I joined on day 1 or day 2. That guy, whoever was in charge, he was having a ton of trouble setting things up. He was appointing some, let's just say, some not so pleasant individuals to moderation and stuff, and the perms are all messy. So I just saw that and really wanted to fix that up. And then, of course, you know, as you gain power, you want to get more power. So eventually I rose up the ladder and eventually ended up as the owner.
Yeah. What was it like running it?
Working on it.
What was it like running, working on it?
Corporate dealings and stuff, like with the corporation and the other news thing, I forgot what it was called. That was all annoying because other people seemingly started conflicts just for the sake of starting conflicts. It was annoying, but
what kind of conflicts?
It wasn't otherwise. Just stuff like who partners with who gets, like, who can make videos and who can like who reports on stuff. And this is also big because you had some news organizations that were inaccurately reporting.
So that's true.
Stuff. So yeah, just like the normal corporate stuff. It was annoying, but other than that, it wasn't super eventful because, you know, it's a community server free and I don't own. So like, what is there to do? We tried doing tournaments and stuff with the time zones, as I think you know, they really killed that off.
It's interesting. Like, I think it's pretty cool the way Starscape has these organizations. I mean, what game? Oh, I mean, obviously you get games that have like different things built around them, but Starscape has fucking people making organizations, news organizations, making reports for every single battle, every single major event. The fucking corporation tried making newspapers and shit. They were doing insane shit. Like, throughout Starscape, there's been some crazy organizations, and this is why it kind of annoys me when I saw Keith saying, oh, you know, this game is a waste of your time. Like, people should just go and do other stuff. But people have been doing stuff and learning skills from this game. Like, do you think Keith has sort of, I guess I would say, an inability to properly engage with the community? Because people have made things like the unofficial server, right? And our news comes mostly from third-party organizations, and I really think that the issues are mostly neglected, and like, we get updates like fucking probes, humor model reworks when we need like stuff fixed, like, you know what I mean, insurance needs to be fixed, railguns need to be nerfed. Like, do you think Keith doesn't really engage with the community properly?
I mean, I speak with some amount of experience here. As a developer, it is pretty hard to see eye to eye with your community, because you see things in terms of what would be more or less difficult to develop, to manage, to balance, all that stuff. You don't see from the player's perspective of what would be fun, what would be engaging. And when people talk to you about that stuff, you sort of dismiss some things, or you put some things at lower priority when they really shouldn't be. So yeah, you can't really blame them though, because that's just how it is as the developer. I totally agree on getting skills and stuff. Like, Starscape gives me some pretty valuable leadership skills that I've used in school and whatnot.
That's why it shocks me. I mean, obviously he had his reasons, Keith had his reasons, but just removing all the devs and the balancing team and everything, just boom, gone. Just crazy to me, because if he doesn't want to communicate with people, who the hell's gonna do it? You know, I mean, if you are gonna work on the game at all, obviously he did want to abandon it at one point. He never really admitted it, but if he comes back, if he starts working on stuff, don't you want to at least know what you should be working on? You know what I mean? Otherwise, things definitely gonna fucking die. I mean, I do kind of get it. It's a passion project, right? But at the same time, you have people like, they're building these huge organizations. They're investing a lot of time into your game. You can't just neglect what they think the game, you know, needs.
Yeah, I think he got the opinions though of people a year or 2, 3 years even ago.
Yeah,
He's still using those very outdated opinions, which don't reflect on what we want currently.
that's the thing. Yeah, it used to be a thing. Like, there used to be communication there. It's gone now. It's like the bridge got cut. You know. I guess he just got sick of being barraged with fucking bullshit from people. When are the stations coming?
Yeah, I can't really blame Kate for wanting to disregard a lot of the community feedback, because a lot of it goes against his own idea what Starscape should be, and people don't account for that, and they're just like, oh, your updates are shit, do this instead, and that probably gets annoying when it's the only feedback you're basically getting.
Mm.
Yeah, I can imagine. Strategic, I would like to ask you, what, tell us about your factions you ran. What was it like running one, especially when it comes to the new gen side of it, and how it's changed?
It's a really good question. I have memory loss apparently. It's going back as far as I can remember, back to Deep Field. The new gens really weren't accountable, and the management wasn't active, so it was annoying. There's a problem that you'll find often, that if you weren't the highest rank around, then people might not respect you, and if they don't respect you, they won't do what you want them to do. It's it was really hard to get workers in Deep Field to do, jobs and stuff.
I was just saying, I can imagine, it makes sense. It's been difficult. So
yeah, you can say that from experience with the Giovanni.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So it's very hard to run a massive faction, especially 100+ people, even alliances and stuff, to organize battles, fleet battles. But yeah, the next question I'd like to ask you is, what issues do you think factions suffer from due to the state of the game right now, in your opinion?
Player factions?
Yeah, player factions.
I mean, the low player count means that you're not often going to find fights, and fights are what the game is pretty much about. Obviously there's still a little bit of faction warfare going on, but of course it's not very organized. So if you as a player faction want to find somebody fight, you want content, you want to find a player faction with values different than yours or whatever, you just want someone to fight for the sake of fighting. Good luck with that. You're either going to find some giant faction full of new gens like TSC, they'll spam 10,000 edicts at you, you have no chance of winning. Or you'll find some old gen who can solo your fleet. You're not gonna find anyone. You're not gonna find any factions similar to your own. You're either gonna find things that are unwieldy, that are huge, and that can crush you instantly, or you're just not gonna find anyone. You're gonna find one random guy.
Yeah, I do think that it's quite difficult for new groups that are trying to get themselves sorted out, because the amount of hate and abuse they get, man, oh my fucking god, it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, some of the old gens, they hate the new gens because classically they're less good at the game, less knowledgeable, so they do appear stupid to older players. But then some of them, like the Romal Sword, just take it much further. You're new, you gotta go. I'm gonna spend all of my time and effort trying to trick you into this, trying to bait you into that. It's really...
We need to be given, realistically, man, we need to be actually helping people that are trying to build these organizations out. They're gonna make the game more active in the long run if they keep this shit going. We need to be supporting the new fucking starter up factions and organizations, and not just dissing and shitting on them as soon as they open their mouth in any fucking public place.
Yeah, and speaking of that, it really doesn't help how the Citadel is you start the game, you have some semi-outdated tutorials, and it's basically
fairly
all right,
outdated.
pilot, go, out you go. So like you could just go out to an unsecure. You can go out to Gat and see, oh look, it's the nearest unsecure. It probably has some loot, or somebody said there's free Yukon there. You think Yukon's good. Then you go there, you get blown up with all the meager stuff that you have. You go back to the Citadel. Someone probably baits you out somewhere else. Maybe someone tries to go mining with you, but then someone finds you or follows you and blows you up. I mean,
Yeah, nah, it's quite
you
bad.
get recruited into a new gen faction, and said new gen faction also has no clue what they're doing, and either gets blown up or it gets boring quickly.
To be honest, it does make sense then, like why they actually they banned so many people from the server for baiting people, man, baiting noobs. But it's like, I don't know, the tutorial does need to be reworked. I think the tutorial needs to explain what the game is really like, okay? Not like mining and fucking Bastion or whatever the hell. And
the tutorials really need to embrace what the game is. They don't mention player factions at all.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that it needs, the first thing that they should be talking about is player factions and joining player factions. Like, one of my ideas was there should be like a board in the game, maybe as a UI or something, maybe you know, in the Citadel, something like obvious, where all factions can display themselves as an advertisement, not with the stupid billboard stuff, but like a thing that you can go through and actually join, like request to join. That's what we need.
A couple things actually with that.
Go ahead.
Billboards, unrelated, but I think the billboards should be they need to be restricted more. Like it has to be
the ads,
emblem. There has to be something like it's just not really. It doesn't fit in when people are uploading like anime girl pictures.
Yeah, nah, it's a joke. It's a joke.
Anime. Yeah, it makes the game look like a joke. And yeah, I totally agree about that. Like faction listing thing. Like, you'd have a screen somewhere that lists all the factions. If there's some that are paying for advertising, they should appear much higher on the list to promote, you know, spending and activity and not.
It's so weird to me. I don't know what caused this. Haven't the faintest clue. Okay, but Starscape did go from being quite serious to quite goofy, and I don't know what the hell caused it.
I think part of it's the disparity between, like, you have your new people who you know, don't get far, or they instantly progress into the or they quickly progress into the experienced player who just trash talks and trash.
It really could just be that, like, stuff. I suppose
it's really just the game's divided into two cases, and that's it.
I think it's really like, when the game was harder, you kind of had to take it more seriously. You know what I mean? I mean, Jesus Christ, you're gonna lose all your stuff. But now it's like, you can kind of afford to make it a bit of a joke.
Yeah, like, you have people who go out there and fully rig Yukons, say, look, destroy me, it's funny.
Yeah, exactly. They don't even care, man. They do not even care. Like, back in the day, that would have been, you wouldn't have thought I'd been doing that shit. Definitely not.
State of the economy.
So, like before I was saying, yeah, Keith is telling people to do other things. I honestly don't really think there's much other games where you could better spend your time on than Starscape. Starscape's one of the better ones. Like, would you think Starscape can teach people skills that are useful outside of the game, not just inside the game? Because not just the game itself, but think about the stuff that people build because of Starscape.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, beyond the basics of, like, you know, hand-eye coordination and yada yada that you can get from most video games, Starscape teaches communication, teamwork, leadership. Teaches you to, like, anticipate people and stuff. You know, it's like you're working as part of a team in a lot of different settings.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're either being patient mining, you're doing teamwork and communication so that the fleet doesn't explode, or you're using leadership skills to communicate with everyone and coordinate everyone and plan everything to work well for maximum attendance and all that. I think you can learn a lot of good skills from this game. Management
skills too. Like, if you're trying to run an organization, you're doing all this planning, developments, you're managing people under you. You know, they could have jobs and whatnot. Also, Iraz is back. That's great.
Yeah.
Maybe you can go on the next one then.
Well, what do you think is wrong with the PvP at the moment?
Huge can of worms.
It is.
It is, yeah.
I mean, first of all, I mean, some of the modules are just so unbalanced. Like, why would you ever use... There's some modules that are just completely useless no matter what. You will never use them except in, like, basically meme builds. And then, like, modules as a whole, just the way they're slotted and not... It allows you to make some really weird stuff, like the agility bulwark.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it has defense rigs. Yeah, there are defense rigs that make you do agility and whatnot. So why should that make the bulwark the most agile ship or whatever in the game? It's weird like that. And then you have, like, there is a single or a very, very small set of best rigs and best ships to use them on in the game. Like, you'll have your edicts, you'll have your conciliators, you'll have your loxodons and your justices. That's more or less it, unless I'm forgetting something.
Yeah,
Most of the
no,
ships in the game just
fighters have died
just
out.
have no use. Well, fighters do. I mean, their damage is funny, but
They're not.
the vast
Yeah,
majority of
rails
ships
ones
in the
kill
game,
them.
you will just never use them. Like the faction fighters, ever see someone use one of those?
No.
No one uses them. The meta is literally just edict or fucking destroyer, and rails or blasters. And then with your modules, you'll have your fucking warp amp to catch people, and your fucking or your
Parallel circuits,
LB
your heavy
disruptor
bolts.
if you're in unsec, or you'll
And
just be
there's-
stationing people to stop them from turning or whatever.
Yeah, there's no build diversity. Like everybody uses the exact same build.
Mm.
So not only do you know what everybody else is using already when they warp into the system, but you know everything they could possibly do and everything you can possibly do. There's nothing surprising ever.
It's really like takes away from strategy, man. Like I think if this game, see, this is my issue. I just don't think games. Obviously, every game has this. Well, as far as I'm aware, every game has a meta. People use the meta, but the meta means no diversity in strategy, no diversity in modules, in fights. It's the same shit. You know what I mean?
That's why you have. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's a huge issue. But then most games implement tools that allow you to create counter metas or off metas and other stuff, other things that are viable or that just destroy meta things. Like in the theoretical situation that justices are the like justices and cannons are the meta, that you can have like loxodons with ions or something. Lycentians as a fleet tried to do that at some points. It did succeed to some degree.
It's sad,
But
man.
there just isn't enough counter meta.
There's so
If
much
somebody's
stuff.
using railguns, what are you supposed to do?
Exactly,
You
man.
activate,
Like railguns are unbalanced as fuck. They're the only turret, right, that can hit you from 5k with max damage, and nothing else can do that. So why would anyone ever use anything else? You know?
I mean, there should be stuff like it'd be cool if you could like divert power to shields or whatever, so like you can basically negate railguns. Versus if you're being railgunned and blasted at the same time, it'll be useless. Cause,
Yeah, there needs to be counters.
You know, that sort of thing. Like, not that I'm advocating for this to be dewoken, but like block, parry, dodge, casuals.
Yeah, no, there should be counters to rails, like especially for fighters, because fighters are fucking one tapped. That's bullshit.
And also the fact that they use so much damage, like a couple claymores versus any destroyer, that destroyer will be gone in 30 seconds.
Yeah, they're quite OP when it comes to damage. There needs to be a counter for fighters, which is actually takes skill. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is why I liked beams. Beams, I mean, you can still one-tap a fighter, but you need to keep the beam on the motherfucker. You know what I mean? It's
like
not...
if you have beams, blasters, or flak, you should be able to hit fighters. If
Yeah.
you have other cannons, you really shouldn't be able to, and your PDTs should be only minor deterrents or whatever.
Yeah.
If they sit there for 30 seconds, they should be hurting a lot.
I think you shouldn't really be able to 1v1 a destroyer. The PDTs should be too powerful. Like, the only reason, like, the regen is fucked on most fighters. Hyperpolaris, obviously, the king of regen.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Regen, just...
it's always been a
regen is
problem.
terrible.
Always been a problem. But it's like, I mean, I don't
Boosters
mind.
were good because...
Yeah, I think you should need two
boosters were
fighters.
good because, yeah.
Yeah, boosters were pretty
Personally.
balanced. I don't think... See, it's the passive regen as well. It's like, you should need two fighters to kill most warships, because that way, the warship can only target one fighter at a time. Do you know what I mean? And you can kind of like get one person to dodge and one person to shoot. And to me, that's like a strategy that's, you know, balanced. But just one guy coming in and being like, haha, I'm gonna go behind your turrets and now you're fucked. Like, nah, it's bad.
You know what I mean? What I was saying was boosters were good because you can only use them once every minute, which is a pretty long amount of time during battle and stuff. I mean, they heal you a decent amount, but they're generally not going to regen your entire health.
Hmm.
And they take a lot of energy as well. Like you generally can't immediately warp or whatever. Whereas repairers, like, I always use builds that are like, okay, medium shield repair, go. I'm going to leave this medium shield repair on, and it's never going off. And you're never going to wear me down. You're going to have to DPS me. But that's stupid though, because that's just effectively more health, and it's not really compromising anything because I can just turn it off whenever I want to warp for no downside.
Do you still have hope for the game, even with all the issues and lack of updates?
I still have hope for the game. I mean, sort of, yeah. like I know it's going to be updated in the future. It's more so a question of, are those updates going to be the type of content we need to get people interested again? And I'm very questionable about that.
Would you be willing to come back to the game if it were updated in a way which made it better again?
I probably would come back if there was a decent update. Like if the PvP meta was changed, made it easier for new players and stuff. I think there's a solid chance that I would come back, and I bet a lot of other people would also come back because I mean, most people quit because other people they know quit. Around the time when I quit, like before I quit and after I quit, all of the Licentian Command quit. So like none of us go back because there are no Licentian Command, you know. But
Yeah.
if like 3 of us went back, then more would probably follow, and so on. You get.
Yeah. What direction would you like the game to go to if it were up to you?
Immediately I'd immediately go after faction warfare because that thing's it really needs to be fixed, as we discussed earlier. Like the seasons and stuff, rebalancing PvP. Really, I would just refine what's already there. Plus, like the mining reworks and stuff. So much content that people have planned out. Like just normal players and stuff, they've come up with such nice concepts, but don't get implemented because there's no time.
It's Dragon alive. Hey.
Hello, I am alive. Sorry, my mic was not working.
Weird.
So, why do you just to let you know, strategic? Next topic. Why do you not like? What do you not like about the most about Starscape, and why?
Well, I mean, pretty basic answer, but just the unbalance of PvP. It's so boring. Like fleet battles, we just basically stopped doing them because okay, you go to the enemy fleet. Let's do a check. Do we have more people than them? No, we lose. And if we do have more people, okay, do they have like a couple skilled people? Yes. Okay, we lose. It's you can just look at the player list before a battle and you know what the outcome is going to be. That's part of the most boring bit of it. And then just again, as I said at the beginning, like faction warfare is just so unrewarding. There's no reason to do it really.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Is Dragon's mic broken again? This is ridiculous.
Sorry. And last question I want to ask you, strategic, is: do you regret your time in Starscape?
Oh no, of course not. It was
Everything you've done coming up to this point, was it all worth it?
Certainly not all of it, but most of it was worth it. I wouldn't. I wouldn't choose not to play.
Amazing.
Oh man.
And if you could go back, would you do it all again?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
he definitely would, bro. He definitely
Love
would.
to hear it. Love to hear it.
Alright, man. I kind of ask everybody this because when we first started the podcast, actually, even before that, we thought nobody would agree with this. But what would your opinions be on a full wipe? Like, so assuming all the fixes were made, right, with the insurance being nerfed, rails, whatever, all that stuff, would you be down for like a full wipe of the game?
In most situations, yes. So obviously you have a lot of people that have like saved up a ton of wealth preparing for player stations and stuff, and they all say they would quit if there was a wipe because they invested so much in that. But at the same time, they are part of the issue. Like you have people that can just wipe out an entire they can just wipe out the entire market if they feel like it. Just basically ruin the marketing game for everyone else at like 2 clicks of the button. So people being so obscenely rich is part of the problem. So a wipe would definitely fix that.
Alright, well, what we'll do, we're right at the end now, we're just going to finish up, and I want to ask you, stop spamming me, whoever the fuck is spamming, I'm going to... Okay, so there was a bit of an error in the recording, we lost a little bit of footage, this is me just interrupting the podcast for a second, but what Strategic is talking about in the next part is his game, Farsector, which you should check out, amazing game, cool project, and linked in the description for that.
In the future, I plan to have like a campaign and stuff, like conquer the galaxy of other factions and stuff. It will mostly be a single player campaign, but like you can do co-op and stuff.
Why a top-down game? That's kind of unique for a Roblox game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to do like a space sort of thing. I like strategic stuff. If you could guess from my name, I mean,
Yeah.
Top down is easier because 3D pathfinding is, well, as a programmer, it's hard to implement 3D.
Yes, I know it. It's an absolute pain.
Plus, it's pretty hard to represent 3D stuff to players as well, because like, I mean, some of my developers wanted to have like guns in the bottoms of ships and stuff. So like, players can't see the stuff that's like, they can't see stuff that's not presented to the camera. So in the end, like why make stuff that isn't shown to the camera? So if it's a top-down game, you can see everything more easily, basically.
All right.
So, yeah, Rook, you can ask this one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, like, we always do this. So we have this guest question, and we always ask people from at the end of the podcast to give a question for the next person. But the last person's question, which was Alpha, I think he's in the audience already. He was a minute ago, and whatever, he's gone now. Anyway, his question was, what do you think about old Starscape compared to new Starscape, and how much did it change from your perspective?
It's like, obviously when you're new, the game is much different. It's like, whoa, look at the stuff. You can explore, you can find new things. But just from like an experienced player in the past versus experienced player now, that's a really good question, actually. I mean, the economy, obviously, it's gone up and down and up and down. And now it's in this, man, I forgot how to describe it. What is the economy like nowadays?
It's crap. Too long didn't read. It's crap.
It could be worse, but yeah, it's not great.
And then, like, I mean, obviously the player base has gone down. People have quit, and so even if you had the same theoretical count of players now as in this point in the past, at that point in the past the game was still growing, but right now it's contracting. Like you have the same number of theoretical people, but now it's less than it once was, and it still feels like it's going down. So I guess I would just say, like, it feels like it's going downhill. Bit of a depressing answer, but I guess that's how I would answer it.
It is depressing, man. I remember looking at the player count 700 and being like, this game's dying, man. Jesus, I was wrong. Fucking 50 players, bro.
It's down to 20 to yesterday.
So bad. Very bad. Like, Jesus Christ. Strategic. What question would you like to leave for the next guest? And no, we can't tell you who the next guest is. It's a secret.
Maybe, like, how did you... I'm assuming this person is going to be a leader, so I'm going to say, like, how did you make your first... Like, how did you go about making your first faction or rising through your first faction or something?
Alright, so what I'll do is I'll ask that, but if that the person is, you know, not, like, the owner of a faction, I'll ask them what their experience was going up through, like, the ranks or whatever, going up through the group, if that's alright with you. Otherwise, I'll just ask them.
Yeah, sounds good.
Alright, yeah, sounds good. Alright. Nice having you on, man. We're pretty much at the end now. We asked all of the questions we wanted to ask you, and it was great. It was actually quite good. You gave some pretty interesting responses. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah,
yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Alright, guys, we're going to be finishing up. See you guys. And Strategic, have a good one, man. Have a good one.
You too.
Indeed.
Yeah, I know.
Adios, everybody.
Thank you.